Well, welcome on in, everybody, to the Lakewood Truck Park. It is Game 3 of the American League Division Series. I'm Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. Jensen, I am pumped for today. This series between the Cleveland Guardians and Detroit Tigers now all knotted up at one apiece. It was a big one at Progressive Field that the Guardians were not able to win on Monday. Now the series flips to Detroit. We're able to get the Trick Scooble game behind us, which is the good news. Jensen, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It is great to be here again. Perfect day. So come on out to the Lakewood Truck Park. We'll be here, obviously, through first pitch. And really, I think, moving day, if you will, in the Division Series. And first time in 30 years, at least in the Division Series era, that all four of these ALDS and NLDS were tied at one after two games. We saw yesterday the NL Division Series go for their Game 3s, a couple of wild Game 3s at that. We'll obviously touch on that later, but it is, almost 3,600 days since postseason baseball has happened at Comerica Park. So I think that in and of itself, you're going to see a raucous crowd today. It's going to be cool up there in Detroit, but all's well that ends well if this Guardian offense can finally get it going and really need a big outing from Alex Cobb today.
Absolutely. We'll be live here up at the Lakewood Truck Park from now through first pitch. So come on down, ditch work early. If you're tuning in to us on social media, we appreciate you. Get out of the office. Come on down.
Outdoor bars are
to
open.
the Lakewood
Let's
Truck
go.
Park. Both outdoor bars opening up now. We've got the Bairden's truck. I will tell you, Jensen, I tried a burger. I tried a burger before we started today. It was delicious. So I am geared up and ready for this show today, obviously, as it's a big one. Like you said, Jensen, Alex Cobb on the mound for the Guards. Obviously a lot riding on him being the trusty, reliable vet that made this postseason roster to make this start here today. But Jensen, for me at least, Game 2 all boils down to we got to wake these bats up. The offense needs to come alive for the Guardians out there in the Motor City.
11 consecutive innings now where they have been held scoreless and both shutouts in both games here for each team to win. Outside of that 5-run outburst and capitalized with, Lane Thomas's 3-run home run, you've really seen the Detroit pitching live up to what they've done the last 4 to 5 weeks of the regular season and now through 4 games of the postseason, including the wild card series. I think the focus for me today is your stars have to be stars, right, Nick? I mean, Jose Ramirez has been held in check a little bit. Josh Naylor obviously has as well. But Stephen Kwan getting the offense going just like he did in the first inning of Game 1. It'll be Cater Montero, the right-hander, getting the start, and we'll see how long that A.J. Hinch stays with him. I think that's another subplot of today's game is now Game 3 today. We know there will be a Game 4 tomorrow. It was easy from a bullpen standpoint if both managers wanted to use their A guys for multiple innings or longer stints. That probably is not the case today, and knowing you may have to go back-to-back days with some of these guys, really fascinated to see how the managers, when they take their starters out and also when they take their A relievers out.
100%. Jensen, another piece of Game 1, or Game 2, I should say, and the big thing that was discussed coming out of Game 2 was Emmanuel Clase and those 3 consecutive sliders there against Kerry Carpenter that obviously did the Guardians in there late in the game. What'd you think of that entire sequence? Because obviously Stephen Vogt was asked about it kind of ad nauseum after the game, and he said, hey, that's a Bo Naylor call there, and he said that's something I don't really have a lot of involvement in. Why to go 3 straight sliders? A lot of people talking about Emmanuel Clase, though, these last few days.
So first and foremost, when you think about where the Guardian pitching staff has been overall, really sound, not only from Tanner Bybee in the bullpen in Game 1, Matthew Boyd was phenomenal. He worked himself out of an inning or two where it could have been some damage and really made some clutch pitches. I think for Clase, and we say this a lot as relievers, highly emotional inning in the 8th, right? Quan makes a catch of the year. At least it looked like it. We'll take it.
It was. We're calling that the catch of the year.
Depending on which fan base you ask. So that right there is an emotional point for a reliever. So you have that huge sigh of relief. Okay, we got out of it. We're still tied. Chance to go back out. Hopefully with the lead in the 9th, get this thing across the line. Still a scoreless game, and he gets the first 2 guys out. Now, credit where it's due. I think Detroit and offensively put together some really quality at-bats to get Kerry Carpenter to the plate. We evaluate some outings, and most of our outings, Nick, this way. when you look at that sequence and you look at the pitch, first and foremost, was he convicted in throwing the slider the third time? If that answer is yes, then you go to the second question of, did I execute the pitch where I wanted to? And I would absolutely believe that Emmanuel Clase would say, no, we did not, because it ends up out over the big part of the plate. All that being said, the perfect storm that had to happen to come together there. He's thrown 211 sliders all year. That was the 210th ranked slider. So his second worst slider of the season, unfortunately, comes at a time where you didn't want to have a mistake. So that happens, okay? You can second guess all you want about sequencing. Bo Naylor's the perfect person to evaluate where he's at. Perhaps he saw that Carpenter wasn't on it. To me, and this is just my own thought, if I'm going to get beat, I got to get beat with my best pitch. Because then I can at least tip my cap and say, he beat me. That's what he's paid to do. But to get beat on that spot and that pitch, I think that would keep me up at night. Now, you can't do anything about it, and I think he is chomping at the bit to get back in there and have an opportunity to pitch and get a Game 3 win for the Guards.
And, Jensen, we will see Kerry Carpenter crack that Tigers starting lineup today. He's in the 2-hole for the Tigers. Really no surprise, you know, that A.J. Hinch is going to ride with who brought him. The only reason why Detroit is in this series, and the silver lining here in all of this, is it's really one swing of the bat of Kerry Carpenter that has this series knotted up at 1 apiece. Carpenter will start today.
He'll be in the 2 spot, and really he's been the engine, at least for the last 10 games offensively. I think 4 homers now, including the 3-run homer in the 9th, also 10 RBI. Really, Detroit, if you look back to the Houston series, all their runs have come late. And that's, I think, something if you're a Cleveland starter in Alex Cobb today, even if you're a first guy out, there has not been a lot of resistance outside of the run-scoring opportunity that Matthew Boyd pitched out of in Game 2. What I'm fascinated to look at is the conditions could be right today for some offense, finally. We might see it from both sides, and that's why I think it's a fascinating subplot of today, knowing you're going to play again tomorrow. How long is the leash for Kader Montero for A.J. Hinch? How long is the leash for Stephen Vogt with Alex Cobb? This is Alex Cobb's 4th start of the year, and it's been some layoff, too, just like Bybee and Boyd had. So we're going to know pretty early if Cobb's got his good sinker, the good late movement. I think that's what I'll be watching first time around.
And, Jensen, we knew in Game 2 runs were going to be at a premium. We literally spent 2 hours before the game on Monday talking about just how hard it was going to be to score runs off of Skubal, and boy, was it. What do you know today about what the Tigers starting scenario, and how long do you give Detroit's starter before they could make a call? Because obviously, like A.J. Hinch keeps saying, they really have Skubal and then just a disaster of pitchers kind of following him. We won't see Skubal today. We also probably won't see Reese Olson being the 2 that won't go, but Detroit probably has a litany of options also after they start.
Yeah, and we would expect that Reese Olson probably gets the start tomorrow.
Okay.
And again, you have to get through today and assess where your entirety of your staff is. This is assuming that you don't go extra innings, you don't have a scoreless affair into the 9th inning like we saw in Game 2. I think I'm watching for Montero. He has had unusually high walk numbers, so where's the command for him? Add in the adrenaline part of pitching at home and trying to harness that fastball command, something to watch for very early. Secondly, is it incumbent upon this Guardian lineup to drive up the pitch count and say, okay, let's force A.J. Hinch to have to make a difficult early decision and go to an A reliever and maybe have to lean on one of those A relievers who might not be able to go multiple innings because of that tomorrow. So that's why I think the mentality of this series now changes for the managers. You don't have the luxury of an off day tomorrow, as you did between the first 2 games. Something to watch as we look at Montero and Cobb in the early stretch.
That's interesting. So I guess I'll ask you that same question then from the Guardians side. In the Guardians perspective, with Alex Cobb, you know, being the guy that gets the nod, who knows? We hope his fingers are intact and feeling good today and everything's sound health-wise. Say he's able to go 3 innings, 4 innings. We've talked a lot, Jensen, throughout this American League Division Series so far. Let's not go through that 3rd time through the lineup. Who do you think the Guardians could look to turn to after Alex Cobb? I think a lot of people out there are excited about the prospect of seeing Joey Cantillo.
Well, if it's not him, and we hope it's not, because then that means that Alex Cobb has gotten length. It feels like it's been Cade Smith to shut down a possible run-scoring scenario. If it is him to come in and clean up an inning and then maybe go out for one more. I could see that scenario. I think you also look at, Timmy Herron, if it's a matchup spot there, left on left. Hunter Gaddis, I don't think sees anything early. You kind of feel that Cade Smith is a 2024 version of what Andrew Miller was in 2016 and how Tito used him early in a game. I mean, he's been striking out the world, so great to see not only his early success, but I think also something to watch for. The length of Alex Cobb probably dictates when we see those A relievers.
Absolutely. Straight ahead, we're going to be joined by Guardians Senior Director of Communications, Curtis Danberg, friend of show, friend of Big Play, is going to be joining us live from Comerica Park. Momentarily, we'll have more of the Big Play pregame show with myself, Nick Padone, and Jensen Lewis right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back here to the Big Play pregame show. We're broadcasting to you guys live from the Lakewood Truck Park. I'm Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We are joined now by Guardians Senior Director of Communications, Curtis Danberg, joining us from out there at Comerica Park. Curtis, what's the vibes like out there in Detroit?
The gates have opened. The Tigers fans and hopefully many Guardians fans made the trip are filing into Comerica Park, and what a beautiful day. Another sun-drenched afternoon here in Detroit.
Curtis, it is the same here, and excited to have a lot of fans come out and join us for first pitch. I know a sad note from yesterday, the passing of Louis Tiant. Started his career here in Cleveland, 19 years. What did he mean to the organization? And obviously such an important pitcher, not only for here in Northeast Ohio, but in Major League Baseball as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of pitching and you hear of Indians greats and MLB greats, Louis Tiant always comes up there. He always had the mustache and was a fun guy to be around, and certainly a devastating loss for Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. Curtis, I wanted to ask you about the ballpark renovations that are happening here in Cleveland at Progressive Field. You know, as our Gen Z host today, I got to tell you, man, my friends have absolutely eaten up the expanded standing room, the areas that are upstairs to stand, hang out. You know, the party deck that we got going on up there now has been an absolute hit. Talk to us a little bit about what else you guys have in store, as I know we're just about, what do we want to say, 90% of the way there?
Oh, I wouldn't even say we're 90. We're probably only 30% of the way there. This offseason we're gonna finish off the Terrace Club, which will be the new North Coast Social. We'll have a beer hall in the fourth deck. We'll have the new dugout suite called the Carnegie Club behind home plate. We'll have new locker rooms, new clubhouses. Our office will be finished. So really, phase one was only the two spots in the upper deck with the Paul Davis Pennant District and the Terrace Garden. The Terrace Garden's been hopping for everybody, you know, that bought the standing room only tickets. It's been a huge success. But there's a lot in store, and going to the postseason, you know, we're hoping to be playing in November. They've been working on contingency plans on how to work the construction, so we're ready for April 8th.
That is a good problem to have, indeed. Curtis Danberg joining us here on the Big Play pregame show. Okay, CD, for people, in case we need Game 5 on Saturday, a lot predicated for the start time on if the Yankees and the Royals are playing. It sounds like they'll be the night game, but if not, we will be the night game there, 8 o'clock first pitch, 4 o'clock if there's two games that day. Are we sold out for a possible Game 5? What are the details for people to know for Saturday?
I think the last I heard, very limited availability as, inventory gets released. They're disappearing quickly. So hopefully we don't have to deal with Game 5. But if we do, I know that place will be hopping. First 2 games were incredible, both on the field and off the field. The fans brought the energy, and I know we could be facing Scoobel in the Game 5, so we're going to need the fans to ratchet it up a little.
Yeah, let's hope we end it here, not only tomorrow, but also ALCS tickets going on sale this morning. People just go to CLEGuardians.com. How do they go ahead and get their hands on that?
Yeah, CLEGuardians.com/postseason and get your tickets, and I'm sure those are moving fast and furious. And hopefully we have the chance to utilize that, whether we're home for Game 1 against the Royals or traveling to New York to start off that series. So that's what we're striving for. And, being around the vibe of the team is very positive, and they're looking forward to today.
For sure. Curtis, as we let you go, last one from me here as we get ready to let you go. What's your guys' message from an organization standpoint to this fan base that's tuned in to Jensen and I here, whether they're, on their phones watching at work or hanging out here with us at the Lakewood Truck Park? It's been such a fun year that you guys have provided for the fans. And I know every step of the way, the Progressive Field has been as packed as we could possibly get it here through this playoff push. What's your message to the fans as we got a pivotal Game 3 here today?
Well, first, it's appreciation. It's been an incredible year, over 2 million fans for the first time since 2017. So continue that support, continue that positive vibe, and hopefully propelling us to the next round and hopefully eventually the World Series. So I keep saying this has been a special year, starting with the solar eclipse in totality on opening day, and we've had a lot of positive vibes throughout the year, so there's no reason to stop now.
Hopefully that is an indicator of playing many night games deep into October.
Yes.
I can't wait to see it.
100%. Curtis, thank you so much for joining us, and let's get a dub out there in Detroit today.
Have fun at the Lakewood Truck Park.
Go Guards. Thank you so much to Curtis Danberg for joining us virtually from Comerica Park, Jensen. A lot of fun with him, and it's crazy to think that Chris and I interviewed him in our studio at Berkeley Lakefront Airport to start the season, and it was so cool because, like you said, it was the solar eclipse, and it was brand new management, a brand new manager in town, and it was just like everything surrounding Cleveland baseball was just a breath of fresh air, and we were so, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about what could be in front of us. And look at where that's brought us here today. Game 3 of the division series, playoff baseball during the day on a Wednesday. It doesn't get any better than
Well,
this.
Historic, right? And we had a perfect setup from our pre- and post-game set there, and one of the iconic views that you'll ever experience in your lifetime. And little did we know, it might have been a window into an iconic year that we've had. I think I'll hit on what CD talked about, 2+ million fans already through the gates for the regular season portion. Of course, 2 sold-out division series games in Game 1 and Game 2. As a player, we touched on this before Game 2. I don't think people realize how much of a difference maker it is. If you've watched any of the LDS games around, I mean, it has been raucous atmospheres, and Cleveland right up there, if not the best. And considering it's during the day, like, we don't get the benefit of playing any night games yet, all right? And
not yet.
You keep winning, you'll play plenty. But I think that's a credit to all the fans who made the time on not only on Saturday, but a work day on Monday to come out, support the club. It is so massive for players, I don't think people even realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a lot of fun. And that's why I wanted to ask him about the renovations with Jensen. I honestly thought we're almost there. And he said, no, we're only 30% of the way done. Like, the ballpark is going to look even better in 2025 than it does today, because those upper areas, that they've added the standing room have been such a cool environment for fans to just go enjoy a weekend, enjoy a weeknight after work, and just take in a game from up there. Some of the best views that you'll find around baseball.
And retiring the dugout suites, wait till you see what is in store for the Carnegie Club. I mean, I've seen the renderings. We actually got a little sneak peek of it at Fantasy Camp, and we're able to really sink into some details on it. Shout out Bobby DiBiasio for having that and kind of giving those guys a peek into what it looks like. If you had fun at the ballpark this year, the amenities and everything else that are going to be there. I think if I remember Curtis talking about it before Game 2 on WTAM, I think that the last thing to go, so everything should be pretty much in for the April 8th home opener, except for the rest of the blue seats.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if they finish it off throughout the year or not, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
So, and I understand the truncated timeline if you keep winning, which is great.
Yes, keep winning. We want those construction workers at Progressive Field sweating. How are we going to get these blue seats in? We don't know. We got World Series baseball on the corner of Carnegie.
I want to see more cranes, in December, because that means that they're a little behind from the games being played. But no, it's been great, and to see already the vibe from our younger fans too.
Yeah.
It is a changing dynamic. When I grew up, it was, hey, you pay the money for the best seats because that's where you were sitting most of the time. And now to get multiple experiences in one outing, and I love how everyone has really just taken to these new areas, and just wait till you see what happens next year.
Yeah, 100%. They've done just a fabulous job around all of these new standing room areas, with food and drink rails, and
you're not going to go hungry there.
You're not. The options are endless. I do have to suggest the Barrio Nachos. Okay, we'll get that out of the way there. They're very good. Again, huge thanks to Curtis for joining us. I know he's got to have a busy day, already, and then still in front of him as the Guardians get set to play Game 3 of this American League Division Series against Detroit. Jensen, we hit on it a little bit about Alex Cobb before we brought Curtis in. That's a big piece of today for me because this is a guy that's a vet. This is a guy that's been around the block. This is a guy that has faced the Cleveland Guardians in the postseason over 10 years ago.
Right.
What does that experienced starter mean when he takes the mound in a playoff atmosphere, especially on the road? Alex Cobb's been there and done all of this.
He just turned 37, so many moons ago that he was in there for the wild card start against Danny Salazar and the then Cleveland Indians. What a wild season that was in 2013, an awesome finish to get into that spot. But remember that he was on the road there for Tampa. Tampa had they had almost a Braves-Mets end of their regular season that year. They were going all over the place. Yeah. They had to play game 163 to get in. And I think what you take out of Alex Cobb is, all right, I have been there, but more so the preparation into this. This is only his fourth start, as I said off the top, of this season. There has been a layoff. What does his heart rate look like? And what does the stuff look like as well? I think that's the thing I watch first and foremost. The command of the ball. Is it down? Is he up? Is he a little, quick with his tempo? Because it may take an inning to lock in.
Yeah.
But if he is locked in from pitch number one, I think Guardians are in great shape.
Is that, Jensen, how you usually, as a former pitcher yourself, is that usually how you, kind of evaluate starters at the very first inning, pitch location, command, that's how what a guy's actually feeling and going through when he's making that start?
We used to say in the bullpen, if you are looking awesome, like if you're dotting every spot, not good, because that means you're going to get crushed in the game. Right? That's how it's worked out. If you're all over the place, might be good, because then you'll lock it in when you come there. Again, each guy is different, but when you have veterans and someone like Alex Cobb who has understood what works for him, I think that's probably what you watch a bit more. Where is the late movement? Is it there? Is the ball flat, or is he getting, good sinking action? Is, the breaking ball and the off speed, is that there from a command standpoint? Is he getting ahead of hitters? On the flip side, anxious to kind of see what's Detroit's MO. They know what we know, that he's had a good amount of time off. I mean, are they behind? Cater Montero has got to be tasked with, got to try and put up a 0, and it's his first postseason appearance ever as a youngster. What's the vibe for him like, trying to get the top 3 in this lineup out? So a lot to focus on from pitch number 1.
100%. It really, man, when you put it that way, it is kind of like a who blinks first scenario. Factored into Alex Cobb's first start is the fact that the Guardians haven't played a road game since September 22nd.
Nuts.
So you factor in, Jensen, the heart rate and the adrenaline that he's going to be feeling starting his fourth or fifth game this season.
Right.
And then the club hasn't been outside of the friendly confines of Progressive Field since late September. A lot of moving components here just on the mental aspect of the game as we get into Game 3 here today.
Yeah, and you can see in postseasons, too, where going on the road sometimes gets a club right because it's just you and the boys. You have family and front office are there now. because it is October, but getting away from having to worry about ticket requests and taking care of, friends that come in from out of town there that might be staying with you. Now you're in a hotel. You may have, your better half with you and maybe your kids along for the ride as well, but you get to be a bit more focused.
For sure.
And I think you get that unification, too, in that dugout of, all right, boys, let's go. I mean, 3,000 – I wrote it down, 3,657 days between postseason games for Detroit baseball at Comerica Park. I love the setup here from the Guardians standpoint of you're going into a hostile environment. You're going to feed off that yourself. You know that they want to try and get out to the early lead, so you may see an over-anxious Cater Montero.
Yeah.
Let's have Kwani take advantage of that. Let's have Jose Ramirez, who has owned Tiger pitching at Comerica Park, do for a breakout day. So I think the offense, as I said, you could see offense from both sides today.
Man, and I hope we see that Guardians offense wake up because really it has been kind of porous at times.
Yeah.
They had their opportunities, Jensen. They really did at Scoobel. A couple times bases loaded, one man down, and the double play ball just happened to be a killer in that game 2 in Cleveland. It was really weird because both of those times, 2 men on, 1 guy out against Scoobel. I'm like, man, this is our opportunity, and they just weren't able to capitalize.
Hey, credit to him. Credit to him, man. I mean, he didn't really need more than a fastball and a few changeups that first and almost second time around the order, and that's why it's hard for Cleveland fans to hear, but he's a Triple Crown winner now this year. He's going to probably win the Cy Young. And I'm sure Tiger fans after Game 2 are like, see, we told you. It's always been Scoobel over Class A. But that being said, you got a real opportunity, and people have asked me, okay, is Game 3 a must-win for Cleveland?
Yeah.
I think there is a bit more urgency because then that puts A.J. Hinch in a spot where Reese Olson's going to have to pitch really well. And as I said today, part of the strategy is when do you pull Montero? When is that inflection point, or when is that first point of, hey, game's in the balance, and who do you use? Tomorrow, having to come back, what's the workload like for those A-plus relievers? And offensively, if you can put a team behind early, you have now backed the opposing manager into a corner of, all right, it's a swing game.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down 2-1, but also, Tarek Scoobel, you can't worry about tomorrow yet, and you certainly can't worry about Game 5. But if I'm Cleveland, to put the maximum pressure is, okay, you get to Montero early, and you force someone else to have to come in those first 3 innings.
Yeah, okay, that's a big thing to watch. I mean, if the Guardians can jump all over Montero in the first 3, I think Guards fans are feeling pretty good about this one and feeling good about it early. And we need that, Jensen, because Game 2 was just heart attack inducing. I mean, 0-0 going into the 8th inning. I mean, every single pitch matters. You're on the edge of your seat throughout those games. It's like, yeah, let's get after Montero in the first 3 today. Let's get after that Tigers bullpen and feel good about this one going into Game 4.
It gave me flashbacks to, if you remember, in 2007 for our division series against the Yankees. Andy Pettitte was unbelievable. Ironically, another left-handed starting pitcher. Yeah. He had shut us down. Of course, that's the Midge game as we see him flying around here. So still good vibes with them. But Fausto Carmona was equal to the task. It was 1-0. Then, the Midges come and we tie the game with G coming home, Grady Sizemore, and eventually walk it off. But I think that is one of those good things for our team, especially the young guys who haven't been in a tight one. Because it wasn't a tight game in Game 1. Yeah, you felt good about yourself, but that might be a little silver lining. Yes, you didn't get the win, but, man, you had to execute. You had to be focused from inning number 1. You had to be really on your game. I think the same presents itself for the scenario today.
For sure, and I think that's the silver lining that Guardians fans can take away from these first 2 games thus far is the fact that, hey, has the offense been a little bit sleepy these first 2 games? Sure, small sample size, but also, man, look at Detroit's offense outside of that one swing of the bat. And, of course, that was a big swing, and it is what has this series knotted at 1. It's not like the Tigers have necessarily been world beaters at all in their own right either.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up. Detroit has scored 7 of its 11 runs this postseason in the 8th inning or later. And that's why I go back to the Houston series where they had opportunities, couldn't cash them in. And you think about specific guys going into today. Riley Green at 2 for 15, Spencer Torkelson 0 for 12, Colt Keith 0 for 9. He does have 5 walks, but all 3 of those guys combined who have been critical to their success, 2 for 36, no runs batted in, and the Tigers as a team with runners in scoring position, $152. They're only 5 for 33,
wow.
and they've punched out 12 times. So over a third of their ABs, they're swinging and missing, which is good news for this Cleveland pitching staff.
For sure. And Jensen, Riley Green is one. I love nothing more, especially come postseason time, of timing Hammy up to the TV, you know, turning the national guys down, turning Hammy up. And every time Riley Green comes to the plate, Hammy makes sure you know, here comes Detroit's best hitter. And so far, knock on wood, Cleveland pitching's been able to keep him neutralized.
And that's what they'll have to do, I think, against Kerry Carpenter. A couple other guys I had written down to watch. I think Matt Vierling, of course, more so in the middle of the order there. Parker Meadows, someone to watch from a matchup standpoint. But it's been Kerry Carpenter. Last 10 games, 4 homers, 10 RBI, as I told you earlier. That might be that bat that you circle in the scouting report and say, we obviously can't let this guy beat us because he just did.
Yep.
But knowing what he's been able to do at home, and then some of those other guys that have really struggled, you don't want them to get that big knock to get them going.
For sure. All right, Jensen, last thing before we completely turn the page on Game 2 and get you guys amped for Game 3 here, we got to talk for 1 second about Jhonkensy Noel and that throw that he made out there in right field. Might be one of the best throws that I've ever seen out of a right fielder at Progressive Field.
So for people that don't remember, shades of Vladimir Guerrero Sr., when he threw from the wall and threw a guy out. And I remember Ichiro did this one time. There are few people that I've ever seen a big league uniform that big.
Yeah.
Remember how big this dude is. And for him to go get the ball, and then he's turning away for a little bit and then trying to get it not only to the bag in time, but the accuracy of it. A 10 out of 10 on the difficulty level in that spot.
Yeah.
You put that, obviously, with what Kwani did with the catch in the 8th inning. They've done it all year. It shouldn't be a surprise, but what a wow moment because it's October baseball.
Yeah, and it is what's made this Guards team so fun. It's what's made us love them so much. It's what's made Jensen's Bringing the Heat segment on Big Play such a hit really all baseball season long because they just keep finding ways. And I think if you're a Guards fan that's out there listening to us right now and you're looking for a reason to be optimistic as the series is tied here 1-1, this team just keeps finding ways to win. It's a team that does not like losing very much, and I know there's something to be said about going on the road and going to Detroit, but if there's a team that could neutralize that and take the fans out of the game and take them out of the game kind of early, I got to put my money on this Cleveland bunch.
And that's why I think you'll see urgency from the lineup particularly, and I think as you look at the left-handed bats, Quan you circle right away. He's the engine that gets it going. Obviously, Jose Ramirez getting to hit from the left side to start with the righty Montero. Advantage Cleveland. Andres Jimenez, I said it in an interview on my way in today. He's kind of lying in the weeds. And usually when that happens, he is due for a big day. Now, whether that is a double, whether it's a homer, whether it's both, and a sparkling defensive play, these are those scenarios where you circle him and say, okay, he could be a guy today.
For sure. And I think you look up and down this Guardians lineup, which we will read for you guys here momentarily. I think there's a lot of guys that you could say that about, kind of just due for a big moment. I think Josh Naylor, a guy that loves nothing more than the big moment and big at-bats. Some of the youngsters as well. We keep talking about Kyle Manzardo, and each time he gets an opportunity, he keeps putting good swings together and making great contact with the baseball. So a lot of reason to be optimistic
Love
today.
the top three today, right? Quan, Manzardo, Jose Ramirez, and I would, again, go back to Lane Thomas, who had the big swing in Game 1. I think he is set up in a good matchup today, regardless of who they bring in once Montero is out of the game. So offense, we haven't had really large outbursts outside of the first inning from the Guardians in Game 1. That's usually when you get some offense on both sides. So I think we kind of got to be ready from the first inning.
For sure. And then we talked about it in the open. If you guys are just joining us, Jensen, talk about Kerry Carpenter and his influence on this whole thing.
Jeez.
And obviously you said it at the open. This is a guy that you're going to have circled on the lineup card all day long because he's the guy that hurt you in Game 2. How, though, exactly from a pitching – because you obviously don't want to just completely avoid him and be scared of this guy, but how do you attack him strategically to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, I think if you have a base open, no qualms whatsoever about putting him on. And if it's a run-scoring situation, setting up a force play at any base, if you got the runner at second, that it won't shock me if that's the idea that Stephen Vogt has. Now, again, behind him, and I think Vierling's hitting third, if I'm remembering looking at the lineup, you really need to be able to execute with the runners in scoring position, and they have thus far. Once you kind of understand where guys' stuff is, and that's why I told you I think Alex Cobb right from the jump is going to give us a pretty good indicator where his stuff is. I think the guys behind him already have a pretty good idea. Outside of one slider, it really has not been anything for the Tiger offense, and I think that's something to lay your hat on.
Yeah, and if you want to look at that Tigers starting lineup today, you are right, Jensen. It is Vierling at third, batting third.
Yep.
Parker Meadows leading off in center.
Circle him too.
Yeah, Kerry Carpenter DHing second. Vierling third base hitting third. Riley Green fourth. Fifth.
Yeah, Wenzel Perez. Yep.
Colt Keith, sixth. Spencer Torkelson at first. Trey Sweeney at short. Jake Rogers at catcher, and obviously Montero pitching. So that's kind of your starting lineup for Detroit and what you're looking at there. And yeah, if you look at it like that, and I think reading it now for the first time in front of me out loud, those first three guys, that's really what to worry about, I think, today.
That's where I wrote down, obviously, Carpenter, Vierling, and Meadows, and ironically, they're your top
1, 2, 3. Yep.
And I think also just giving those numbers back out about Riley Green, 2 for 15, a guy that hit Cleveland pitching pretty well during the regular season. Colt Keith, the same. He has gotten on base 5 times via the walk, but still 0 for 9. Torkelson there has been a lot of swing and miss capability there, and I think they continue to exploit that. But hey, the Cleveland offense, we mentioned it, 11 straight scoreless innings, and the Tiger pitching has been very good. That was always a narrative coming into this series, that they've pitched really well. They've played October-like games to get to this point in September. So all their guys are ready, and that's why the first 3 innings for both sides so critical for how the bullpens are used.
For sure, and the Guardians offense needs to be up for the task. I'm willing it into existence here, Jensen. Today is the day. Within our first 3 innings for Cleveland offense, we're breaking the streak of 11 straight innings without a run. We're getting a run on the board early in this one. I know we'll build our bets later, but I wish I could draft that as one leg of my parlay here early today. We'll get you guys the lineup here for Cleveland. It's Stephen Kwan leading off in left, Kyle Manzardo DHing in the 2-hole. We finally get our wish as the youngster cracks the starting lineup here for his postseason starting debut as a DH. Jose at third in his usual spot. Josh Naylor at first base, batting cleanup. In center is Lane Thomas, followed by Andreas Jimenez. Will Brennan, I like that move a lot. In right field, Bo Naylor behind the dish, and Rocchio at short. Jensen, immediate thoughts about Josh Naylor back to his usual cleanup spot ahead of Lane Thomas.
No surprise with the righty on the mound. And I think, too, where you look at the dynamic early, Kwan in this spot, and I'm feeling the effects of getting this lineup off to a great start in game 1. Go back to that headspace, go back to that mentality. Jose, we're not rocket scientists here, but he's got to have a big day. He's got to have, one of those impact moments, whether it's offensively, we hope offensively, but defensively, he's got a lot of ways to do that. On the base path, create some base path issues for Jake Rogers and that pitching staff. LT, Lane Thomas, I'm telling you, it's something about Jimenez today gets me going, and I feel that Willie Brennan too. You kind of sleep on the bottom of that lineup, and that's where he's done some damage for us, especially in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, big time. Don't sleep on the bottom of this lineup, because we've seen in this postseason already, Rocchio in that 9-hole, put together a nice piece of hitting yesterday, and you called that, or Monday, I should say, and you called that one, Jensen. So, yeah, definitely don't sleep on the bottom. Similarly to Detroit, obviously the engine is at the top for these Guardians, and it all starts with Stephen Kwan. Excited, Jensen, to see what Manzardo could do with consistent postseason at-bats, getting more than just one crack at it late in a game today. I really do think he is another guy that's due. I get you can't maybe necessarily say, I kind of had an argument with somebody about this earlier today. You can't necessarily say that Manzardo's hot because he's had so many days off.
Yeah.
But the way that he came back for that second stint from the minors, I mean, he was just on. That was the version of Kyle Manzardo that we thought we were getting when that trade went down.
Well, and credit to the player, too. And it's never easy when you get told, hey, you got to go back down to AAA because you've worked so hard to get to the big leagues. And we said it before game one, that guy deserved to make the 26-man out of spring training, but they wanted to get a look in other areas and finish off his development. But credit to him, stayed with it, continued to slug, continued to play good defense, gets rewarded and an opportunity to impact this club in August and September. Told you that homer against Minnesota did it for me, the dagger into the Twins season basically, but also I think that moment of, hey, I've arrived, I belong, and I'm one of us. He's a piece of the puzzle, and I think he could be today.
For sure. All righty, we are going to step aside, but straight ahead, the rest of these division series have been nothing short of phenomenal. If you were tuned in to Fernando Tatis Jr., the Padres Dodgers last night, you had a ton of fun watching that ball game. Jensen and I will catch you up with what's going on around the Major League Baseball playoff picture when we return right here on the Big Play pregame show. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, we are live. Welcome on back into the Big Play pregame show. I'm Nick Padone, joined by Jensen Lewis. We're hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. Come on down to Lakewood, man. It's a cool vibe here already. 3 o'clock game. If you're listening to us at the office, I'm putting that peer pressure on you, man.
Shout out to the gentleman getting the food with the
Brad Hand jersey is just very well done.
Love it.
Yeah, big fan of that. Here today, and obviously Lakewood Truck Park is where it's at.
Great spot.
Come on down. We'll be here today. Now that this game has, or this series, I should say, has continued, we are going to be here, Jensen, as well tomorrow.
Yep.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Not really on the time part because we'll be live 4 to 6, taking you guys up to first pitch for that game, and I imagine this place will be filled up there as well.
Yeah, and again, can you imagine a possible winner-take-all Game 5? And secretly, we obviously want this thing to end tomorrow. But objectively, we wouldn't mind being here for a night game 6 to 8 on a Saturday. I mean, we wall to wall in here. It'd be unbelievable atmosphere.
Jensen, safe to say, and our producer Ryan's over there giggling off camera, safe to say we've had fun hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park thus far. And as long as we could keep this fun continuing, we will. As always, as we're brought to you guys by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. The Liptons are about to be flowing here at the Truck Park. It is only $1.49, but I see a couple adult beverages
Get her going.
Getting underway. Hey, that's what playoff baseball is all about, baby, especially in this town. All right, we got a post sent to us here, Jensen.
Okay.
About which playoff ballpark
man.
gets going the most. Now, this is a ranking from The Athletic where they ranked home field environments of the 8 remaining Division Series teams.
This is not real.
And you are going to be blown away, my friend, when I read to you the order of these ballparks. At number 1, we have Petco Park in San Diego.
Okay.
I could see that. There's an argument to be made.
Absolutely.
There.
Yep.
Number 2, Citizens Bank Park, Philadelphia.
Yeah, and last year it was bananas. Last year was, I mean, that's as electric a place I think that we've seen in a while. So okay, they're at 2.
All right, here's a historical one. So I'll give you this one, but then after this one is where you start losing me. Number 3 is Yankee Stadium.
I can't get behind new Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
Nowhere near as intimidating as old Yankee Stadium. And again, that's just the way it is. Like it used to have the bleacher bums right on you in the visiting bullpen. And if you remember how foul territory was, like down the lines, like those fans were on you, dude.
Yeah.
You could hear, we can't repeat it here, family program, but you got your fair share of insults. Now, I'll say that I would take old Yankee Stadium over Fenway Park in a heartbeat because those people are, you talk about get inebriated quick. Like, come on. You know, it's have some dignity sometimes. But, okay, so old Yankee Stadium, I could see up there, but
new Yankee Stadium.
No,
all right,
no.
So regardless, we're 3 in number 4, and here's where things start getting really funny. Dodger Stadium. Those people don't even know that there's a baseball team.
Well, late arriving crowd too.
Yeah.
So I don't think you deserve to be in the top 4 unless you've got.
Look at this.
There we go.
Look
That's
at
what
this.
we're
getting
get
Lipton Hard Iced Teas thrown to us live on the stream.
All right, so I would say that to be in the top 4, like everyone's got to be in their seat by first pitch.
Okay.
Or you got to be 95% full. And that's not the case.
Jensen, I think to be considered as a best playoff atmosphere, period, you got to be in your seat when the game starts.
Yeah.
Like 3rd inning, you roll in there from the beach. You can't
Traffic on the 5. You got to start at 2 o'clock to get there for 7
All
o'clock.
right. Well, we're keeping this thing going. Petco Park, Citizens Bank Park, Yankee Stadium, Dodger Stadium, number 5, Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City.
In 2014 and 2015.
Cool place to play.
Really, really neat. With the reno now that they've got there and Kansas City fans in and of themselves, good, hearty Midwestern people. For whatever reason, we always play close games there. Always play close games. So I can live with that.
All right, number 6, we got Citi Field, the Mets.
But you got to get in, you know.
Yeah,
and,
similar.
You know, yesterday was fun to watch if you watched the Mets and the Phillies game
and
yesterday.
the Mets have been fun thus far, so
they were on it, man. You could tell they were starved to get some playoff baseball. They finally got it.
All right, at number 7, we have Progressive Field.
So apparently, I mean, again, MLB's best playoff atmospheres, and I'm assuming just for the teams remaining here.
Correct.
So I see where they're doing it. Like, I would like to know the criteria of how they got this list constructed. And again, I would challenge them, okay, switch the start times. All right, and we obviously know the big markets they're going to cater to try and have them later. And, of course, the West Coast notwithstanding, you have to have them later. Challenge them to play at Petco at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock local on a Monday, okay? And let's see.
Yeah.
And then put Progressive Field and Comerica Park. Give us a couple – like, if you could rotate the night games.
Right. If the tables were turned.
Yeah. I mean, you're asking people to take off work to come for a 3 o'clock game.
And they are.
And they are.
Yeah. All right. And then dead last, we haven't seen a game there yet. Comerica Park. We'll see it there today.
3,657 days in between playoff games at Comerica Park. That'll end today.
That is a lot of days.
Yeah.
To be ended today. Good insight from you, Jensen, just about some of these different stadiums, especially a lot of good stuff on old Yankee Stadium and how it compares to Fenway. All right, we're gonna talk a little bit about these division series that have gone on. Royals right now, even really going into yesterday, everyone was split at one. Which, I mean, if you're Major League Baseball, if you're Rob Manfred, I got to imagine you're in the league office just doing a dance because this is exactly what you want. There is great parity right now, and as a fan, like dude, if I was a fan of like the Twins, maybe not. I'd be hate watching. But if I was a fan of like the Reds, where I knew I really didn't have a chance, I would be enjoying the hell out of this playoffs because it's been so close.
I believe I saw a ratings post today. The ratings for TBS, FS1, Fox, up 41% in the wild card round for ESPN also. And so here's the scenario. Okay, there's not really a bad one in the National League because you're going to have New York, Philly, San Diego, or the LA Dodgers. Like, you can't go wrong there, right? As far as ratings, as far as fan base, they're praying to God the Yankees get through to at least have that. And they would be overjoyed if it's the Subway Series, but they'd also be overjoyed if the Dodgers find a way back. I think they're in for a treat seeing what Kansas City looks like later tonight and for what Comerica is going to be like this afternoon. I played in plenty of games early in my career where 44,000, whatever it is, capacity there. They're loud, man. And for people that don't know those bullpens, there's an indoor portion there where you can go and it's huge when it's cold because you get the heaters on and you come out and you feel like you're good to go. But when it's warm and it's summer and that place is packed, you open the windows up and you get a pretty good feel of what it's like. Yeah. And it's like going into a noise tunnel when you come out because you're so, in close proximity to those fans by the wall. I think all 4 venues are going to play out really well today. Last day, too, Nick, that we are guaranteed 4 games in a day today.
Wow. Don't say that. That kind of bums me out. Don't say that out loud.
Well, it is what it is. We'll only have 2. We'll only have 2 tomorrow for the ALDS, and knowing that the NLDS they're having their game 4s today, so they'll have days off if Game 5 is necessary. But yeah, you've got just particularly with the Yankees and the Royals, Clark Schmidt, Seth Lugo tonight. You can talk about must wins.
Yeah,
Yankees.
I think so. You better, and that's a tall task with Lugo on the bump.
At home,
the Yankees. Dare I say, Jensen? Again, knock on wood. Yankees are staring uphill as we sit here right now at 1:56 p.m. on Wednesday. With Lugo on the bump in a must-win game, that tall task, and obviously the Yankees have the bats to live up to that task always. But that's going to be a fun one today.
And I think you also look at what the Mets have done in their series, and I think Pete Alonso, Jesse Winker. By the way, you were talking about a pimp job of a home run. How about Jesse Winker just standing there like he just walked off the Mets walked off the Phillies for a National League Championship series. The big storyline for me out of that though, Sean Manaea, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. You just rarely see anymore guys as starters being able to go past the 6th inning or their managers allowing them to do that. But credit to him, huge for Carlos Mendoza and that group. They win 7-2. Crazy to think that the 2 teams I think we all circled at the beginning of the year, the Dodgers and the Phillies, both on the brink. heading into today.
Big time. And then you look at the Mets, who a lot of people had dead in the water until Grimace came and threw out that first pitch. They are one win away, Jensen, from the NLCS, which is just crazy.
Ranger Suarez for Philly against Jose Quintana, and Quintana and Minaya down the stretch have been as critical for them. Tyler McGill, Luis Severino. Like, they have sort of a under-the-radar rotation. Like, they don't have the stud names as we're used to seeing from other playoff teams of the past. But back into their bullpen has been solid. We know what Lindor has played like down the stretch. Polar Bear Pete, back up the Brinks truck, Steve Cohen. Like, he's earning it in spades for what he has done this postseason.
And you talk about Quintana, maybe not being the big name, maybe not being a guy that's, spoken of as the top echelon of pitchers, but having him going, he's the guy that got them into the postseason in that epic moment where Pete Alonso had that first bat flip before the playoffs even began. So the Mets have been a lot of fun to watch. And candidly, Jensen, I know we're not getting into our bets for the Gardos quite yet, but they've made me a little bit of money on just Mets money line, Mets money line, Mets money line. It's been a fun ride that they've taken me on.
I'm going to say, if you've rolled it over, you've done quite well. But they have that team of destiny feel, right? They have that feeling that they're never out of it. The most comeback wins right now, combining regular season and postseason in our Major League year here in 2024. If you look at Philly now, and really Ranger Suarez, a guy that last year was as potent for them in their rotation as Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Uncharacteristic to see Nola get hit around a little bit like he did yesterday, but the back end of that bullpen, woo, boy, it's been tough sledding for the Phillies to try and close things out.
Yep, and then in the other National League Series, let's talk a little bit more about the Dodgers being one game away now of no longer standing here with us.
What if I told you that the team that spent $1 billion this offseason may not even make it to the National League Championship Series? And hey, Betts hits a homer to get them out in the early lead, try and take the crowd out of it. And then San Diego comes and puts a sixth spot in the bottom of the second. Fernando Tatis Jr. with one of the great postseasons right now to date. I think he's hitting 556. His OPS is almost at 2,000. They got some swag right now.
They do.
Michael King, up until the Teoscar Hernandez grand slam in the third, at this point had been one of their most effective starters. But you got it right where you want it. If you're San Diego, you got LA on the ropes. They're going to have to go opener today. Probably Ryan Brazier is probably going to have to start for them. Dylan Cease getting the ball for the – you want to talk about what a celebration is going to look like, because those two teams hate each other right now. They hate each other.
And looking about we talked about here on Monday how that series started with some of the drama with the fans even. It could be a big-time celebration. And I think the kind of the rest of America probably pulling for the Padres here in this one, just because, like you said, spent $1 billion this offseason and might walk away with not a whole lot to show for it.
Yeah, and knowing what their injury issues have been, of course, they traded for Tyler Glasnow to be their Soto ace, and Yoshi Yamamoto not having it in his start. Walker Buehler, I commend him. A little biased, my fellow Vandy boy, but kept him in it. Teoscar hits a grand slam, and then Buehler actually got them through some critical innings to even be remotely in it. And they threatened a little bit at the end, but A.J. Preller, when we looked back at, how about this story too? So Soto gets traded, right? And that's the big thing. Everyone wrote San Diego off when that happened. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
He goes out, and we all scratched our head. Like, it was a week before the regular season started. They go and get Dylan Cease from Chicago. Like, what? What? You traded away Soto? Like, it makes no sense. Well, then San Diego puts it together. I give Mike Schilt. He's going to get a lot of votes for NL Manager of the Year. I still think Pat Murphy might win it. But with what they were able to do at the deadline, A.J. Preller, their GM, you go out, you get Tanner Scott, you go get Jason Adam to team with Robert Suarez, who was filthy last night, just 100-mile-an-hour bowling balls. The Padres they're hot, man. It won't shock me whatsoever if they end it tonight.
Wow, that'd be exciting, and selfishly looking forward to – San Diego would be a cool place to go if these Guardians could catch a little bit of fire here today.
Yes. Destination World Series ticket, you make a weekend out of that for sure.
Oh, and Jensen, I would. We would have to find someone else to come up to the Lakewood Truck Park and host the Big Play pregame. I'm just kidding. We're having a lot of fun hanging out here, talking to you guys. We are an hour away from first pitch. Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers, Game 3 of the American League Division Series, set to get underway from Comerica Park here just in about an hour. That means we're hanging out with you guys for one more hour here at the Lakewood Truck Park. Come out of work, come hang out with us here, get a Lipton hard iced tea, have some fun with us. We're going to talk some guards, get you guys ready for this game when we return right here on the Big Play pregame show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back into Big Play pregame show. We are live from the Lakewood Truck Park, hanging out with you guys, taking it all the way up until first pitch of the Cleveland Guardians American League Division Series against the Detroit Tigers, set for 3:08 at Comerica Park. I am Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We're hanging out at the Lakewood Truck Park. Man, get out of work. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. We're brought to you today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Get a Lipton Hard Iced Tea going for game time as well. Jensen, it's time to talk some guards. It's time to put some bets in for this game as we get our predictions locked and loaded for this Game 3 of the American League Division Series, split at 1.
Mm-hmm.
I know last show here on Monday we had Barstool Tate.
Yep.
He was very excited. He was very optimistic.
Yes.
He said Guardians money line. I don't know, man. I think I'm feeling Guardians money line. I feel like today's the day for it. The odds right now are a dead even money line, and then your run line is about split. Guardians minus 1.5 is juiced to plus 154.
Okay.
But Guardians on the money line minus 115. I'm rolling with it today.
I love it. I like that. As I said, if you're looking to get kind of creative, I think what's the total? 7.5?
7.5 right now.
I think you can go over that. I wouldn't go crazy, but I think we finally see some offense today. Guards money line like that. I think if you're looking at any other LDS ones, I think the Padres money line, my strongest player, and I think they ended. I don't think they're going to let LA have any life there. I wouldn't be shocked if Philly puts up a great fight and does not go quietly, and they get to a winner take all. We mentioned just those atmospheres. Like Citi Field will be crazy.
Yeah.
Red October.
Yeah.
Citizens Bank. Let's see, on Friday for a Game 5. Book it. I think the Phillies get it done, and then I circled us and the Yankees when the AL bracket was set because I think they were in the best leverage positions. I still think the Yankees are. I told you I thought it was must-win for the Yankees tonight because I don't think they want to go down knowing what they're up against from a pitching standpoint. I think they can squeak it out today.
Okay, cool. If we want, we can look at some other odds today. 508 is that Mets-Phillies. The Mets are slight favorites in that game. Yankees-Royals. That one's about even, Jensen.
Okay.
Very similar to what we've got going on at Comerica Park with our Guardians. Minus 105 for the Royals, minus 115 for the Yankees. And then tonight, the big one in the NL, Dodgers and Padres. The Dodgers are plus money right now. So Vegas knows LA's on the ropes here.
Like I said, you look at LA and their pitching situation, they're going to have to go with an opener, and it wouldn't shock me if they get Ryan Brazier to start because you got those righties, the big righty power bats to get going after a rise. The postseason that Fernando Tatis Jr. has had at this point, that atmosphere, we were just talking about atmospheres. If you didn't get a chance to watch last night, and I wanted to tune in just because of all the shenanigans that happened in Game 2, like how would it start out in Game 3, the whole thing with Machado throwing the ball in the dugout at Dave Roberts and all the media circus on that. Well, they put it to bed, and I think they put the Dodgers to bed tonight.
All right, so let's go ahead for our guards. Put together a little same-game parlay.
All right.
If we're feeling good about Guardians' money line, I'm feeling good with it.
Okay.
We could put that in as our first leg.
All right.
Let's pick an offensive player. We said Jensen in the first hour of the show, early in this game, I'm hoping for the first 3 innings, the guards are going to get off the schneid here. They're going to end this 11-inning drought without a run. Guards are going to score a run here early. Jensen, who you like to get a hit?
Well, I'm Hosey and Lane Thomas, but if you want to get a little oddsy, I would say Jose 2 or more total bases.
Okay.
And if you want to get really nuts, let's go Lane Thomas 2 or more RBI.
Wow, play a little RBI game? All right. I like that.
Maybe he gets a little homer, maybe he gets a little 2-run double. Could see something like that. Again, that's the other part about Comerica Park during the day, and anxious to kind of see where the wind is there. It's a triples park, man. You get it in a gap, plenty of speed on both sides. Detroit doesn't do as much on the base paths as far as stolen bases go, but they can hit plenty of doubles if they're right. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's kind of where those things fall. I mean, as I told you, Hosey's got to have a big day. So if it's Cleveland money line, you might as well kind of keep that theme, going.
Yeah.
I like 2 total bases, and let's get nuts. Lane Thomas, 2 or more RBI.
And then even Jose, 2 total bases right now. That's just plus money. That's plus 120 right now just on its own for Jose, 2 plus bases. So they're almost begging you to have some fun.
I love it.
And put that in. I'll flip things over to the pitching side. And I know this is going to be a sensitive thing because we don't know exactly the length that Alex Cobb's going to have in this start today. But that strikeout number is very low.
2.5.
And he's not a strikeout pitcher right now, but 2.5. It's minus 170.
To get 3, again, all predicated. These are the games starting pitching wise that would scare me from any of those props.
Yeah.
Here's what I would look at. What's Montero's walk prop? 1.5.
Montero walks allowed. You could do 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
If you do Montero 2 walks is plus 190.
Okay. Well,
one walk is minus 225 for Montero.
Yeah, I think he at least walks somebody. I think he does. But
okay.
if you want to get creative because he has had command issues, I think I would trust the lack of command more than maybe swing and miss.
Okay.
That might be the way to go.
All right, so here's what we got going right now.
Okay.
We've got Guardians money line.
Okay.
We've got Montero 1 walk.
Okay.
Jose 2 plus total bases.
Uh-huh.
And then I bet it down. I bet just 1 Lane Thomas
RBI?
hit.
Oh, a hit. Okay.
1 Lane Thomas hit.
Okay.
And 1 Stephen Kwan hit is plus 625. I mean, if the Guardians are going to win, you got to think that's the recipe to do it.
I love it. Fantastic.
All right, we're going to put that in. We are obviously very optimistic about our guards today, especially after what we were able to see the first 2 games. Detroit able to get game 2. Guardians were victorious in game 1. Jensen, we're about to be joined by a very special guest here. I heard just pop into the green room, so we're going to let Ryan get his shot set up here.
Yeah, and when you think about Detroit, as I mentioned, one of the headlines, 3,657 days in between postseason games. As soon as Detroit found out they were punching their ticket to the division series, you got to believe that's the hottest ticket in town. The way it's going, that fan base, boy, they're going to be ready to go from pitch number 1.
Yeah, Jensen, we talked about the positive of what that can mean in that massive amount of days from, playoff game to playoff game, and they've had a massive drought without playoff baseball in Detroit. But could that come to be a bad thing? Like, you could almost amp yourself up too much. I know I talked about that with Boobie Gibson during Cavs season at length, and he was like, there's something to be said about being way too excited in a playoff atmosphere that you just completely forget who you are and what you do.
That's why I think the first inning is so massive for both guys in the pitchers, with Montero, first ever postseason appearance as far as the start goes. And then also when you think about where Alex Cobb is with the layoff, what's the command like, hostile environment. Yeah, something to certainly watch from pitch number 1.
For sure. All right, Ryan, how we looking? Alrighty, we are now going to be joined by our next featured guest here on the Big Play pregame show. Joining us from out there in Michigan, it's Jason Beck, MLB.com beat writer for the Detroit Tigers. Jason, how's it going? What's the vibe like out there in Detroit? It's been a while since you guys had playoff baseball. We appreciate you joining us here today.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on, guys. It kind of feels like an opening day crowd out there. There's a lot of buzz, and they start gathering pretty early.
Jason, it's Jensen. I know as we were kind of talking headed up to not only today, but also understanding what this means for the city. Of course, watched what the Lions did in football last year and all the hype surrounding them coming into this year. With what Detroit has done, and I know the big theme has been gritty. We saw that with Tarek Skubal on his shirt in a post-game interview in Game 2. Just give Cleveland fans a sense of what these last 5 to 6 weeks have meant, not only for the club, but for the city as well.
It's been pretty crazy. A lot of people, were thinking this home stretch was going to be basically about 2025, evaluating a lot of the young guys and figuring out who fits in this organization for the long term and where they need to upgrade. And then, they started heating up. They fared well on the West Coast trip. They took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. They started getting momentum. And at some points that coincided with the Twins struggling with injuries and with some pitching depth issues. And, all of a sudden you look up around Labor Day and it suddenly starts looking within reach, even if it didn't look likely. And then the momentum just builds. And then with like 2 weeks to go, I think it really kind of sank in that, yeah, this team really can do it, and that they're playing clutch baseball against, not just sub 500 teams, but against really good teams that are going to the playoffs. And, it just kind of cut a life of its own.
For sure. Jason, we obviously saw Scooble yesterday or I should say Monday in Cleveland, and boy, was that something to behold there. Talk to us a little bit about Montero and what Guardians fans can expect out of Detroit's starting pitcher today.
Well, Montero gets a little bit overlooked. He was the other half of the two-man rotation that the Tigers had in August. He actually fared well. There was a lot of learning on the fly because he was a midseason call-up. The thing to look for is, he's got a high spin curveball. He's got a good slider. He doesn't throw the changeup often, but when he does, when he mixes it well and sequences well, he can get some good swing and miss on it. I'll be curious to see if he uses that a little bit more than usual today, given how the Guardians struggled against changeups, against Scooble the other day. But also, this is going to basically be a late afternoon start in Detroit. And while the shadows aren't as big of a thing here as they are in Cleveland, they do tend to become an issue once you get to like 4 or 5 o'clock, especially as you get into the fall months. So, if the shadows are a factor, Montero's got the type of arsenal where if he lasts long enough into the game, he could be tough to hit and tough to track. So that's something where I'll be curious to see how that plays if he can get through that top portion of the Guardians order.
Jason Beck of MLB.com joining us here before Game 3, live from Comerica Park. Jason, something that we always look for not only Stephen Vogt is that line of demarcation with bullpen usage and when to pull the plug on the starter. I said at the top, anxious your thoughts after hearing the press conferences from both managers yesterday. A little different mentality now, knowing that you have a game today and you will have a game immediately tomorrow. It was so advantageous for both managers to use pretty much at will whoever they wanted in Games 1 and Games 2. How do you see usage for A.J. Hinch on his side, and will there be a long leash for Kader Montero?
Well, A.J. says it's all hands on deck. That,
okay.
He knows that there's going to be an after effect for whoever he uses in Game 3 and who's available for Game 4, depending on how he stretches. But he's also counting on, this being the postseason, guys tend to have a little bit more in the tank than they do during the regular season. The usage rules are a little bit different. But, he's also talked about the more you see relievers during a series, and stats show this out, that the more times you let hitters see the same relievers during a series, that, the better looks they have against them. And it generally tends to, if not more success, at least more contact rates and more ability to put the ball in play and get some better swings off. So, depending on how the game goes, I think if it's close, you got to play for the win,
sure.
Especially if you're the Tigers. But, they have the type of mix to where they can throw they can do almost like a line change from Game 3 to Game 4 if they want. Given that you have Holden and Sean Gunther on the left side, you've got Jason Foley, Bo Brisky, Will Vest on the right side. You have some other guys in between. I suspect we could see Brant Herter in this game after Montero, just to maybe, flip the lineup around and maybe swing some of the matchups that the Guardians built against Montero. And then we all expect Reese Olson to pitch in some sort of capacity in Game 4, whether that's as a traditional starter or a reliever. And he's stretched out now to where if he has success, he can cover some innings for them. Maybe not Scooble innings, but some innings that are closer to what you would expect if he'd been starting all year.
Absolutely. MLB.com's Jason Beck is our guest here on the Big Play pregame show. Jason, appreciate you joining us. Jensen and I have talked a lot with all of the guests that we've had on about X factors throughout this series. Give us a position player for the Detroit Tigers today that in your mind is an X factor against the Guardians.
think Wenzel Perez is somebody to watch. You know, the at bat he had the other day, yeah, he was on the wrong end of that Stephen Kwan diving catch, but it was a good at bat. He looked like he was seeing the ball well, and he's the only switch hitter in this lineup, and he's a guy who can be a tough hitter to match. So not just because he switch hits, but also because he's a pretty calm at bat. He's done a good job of putting balls in play, and he has a speed factor to. And I think, given the size of the outfield, and we saw this down the stretch, the Tigers were an aggressive team base running wise over the last couple of months all around, but they were particularly aggressive at Comerica Park because they know there's a lot of ground to cover, and they know that when outfielders play deep, if they can't charge the ball straight on, it creates a tougher angle for them to throw the bases. And Wenzel's the type of base runner who can take advantage of that. He can do the first to third. He can do the first to home on an extra base hit, maybe challenge some of the outfielders. So I'd keep an eye on him as the X factor.
Jason, last one for me, and appreciate you taking the time on a busy day there. I know the pomp and circumstance will be as lively as it was here for the first 2 games in Cleveland. Is it a must-win in your mind for Detroit, or do you feel like Cleveland has got to get this knowing a potential Game 5 with Tarek Skubal is there on Saturday?
I think, if you're the Guardians, I think you really want this one. The Guardians probably need it more than the Tigers, just
Agreed.
because, the Tigers know that Olsen's is available in Game 4, and they can go all hands on deck. And, having Skubal looming in Game 5 makes that road trip a little less daunting than it would otherwise be.
Absolutely. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, JB.
Thanks, guys.
For sure. Jason Beck of MLB.com was our guest, joining us live from Comerica Park. Jensen, we've had a fun run of guests here on Big Play Pregame.
Yeah, certainly have, and just wanted to kind of get a view from the other side there. And Jason does a great job covering the Tigers day in and day out. And I think 2 key points for me, it brings up Wenzel Perez. I also had him on my list of hitters to watch. Andy Ibanez is a huge weapon against lefties off the bench. So you kind of circled Tim Herron. We hope we don't see Joey Cantillo today, because that means that there probably wasn't a lot of length from Alex Cobb. Because remember, tomorrow still have to figure out who is opening, if we will, or is that going to be one time around the order for Cantillo, one time around the order for maybe a Gavin Williams or flip-flop, however they want to do it. I think that's something to watch, late game scenario. If Tim Herron, Eric Sabrowski in, when does A.J. Hinch use Andy Ibanez, who has crushed Cleveland pitching in his career, and particularly again this season?
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that I took away from that conversation with Jason is the Guardians have to feel the pressure today, Jensen, just because
urgency. Yeah,
the Skubal coming back for Game 5 makes Cleveland a little less daunting. Like that is a great point, and it definitely puts the ball, literally back to into the Tigers' court. No pun intended to use a basketball pun there, but seriously, not only would they take that 2-1 lead in the series, but then also knowing that, hey, you've also got the cards that you want to play in your back pocket. I think we see that urgency, and you hit on it early in the show. We see that urgency from the Guardians hitters early in this game to get after Detroit, and let's get a lead here early, guys. That's my biggest thing.
Here's what, and I totally spaced on it. I was doing the math wrong in my head. Tanner Bybee can start on normal rest tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you got here's even more urgency for you, right? Okay, so he pitches Saturday, so you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Today, Wednesday, he'll be ready to go on normal rest.
So he could seriously,
Tanner Bybee will start tomorrow.
Knock on wood, finish this thing tomorrow in Detroit.
Yeah, and I think that is the mindset I take if I'm Stephen Vogt, is saying, I'm absolutely playing to push this one across, because I know I've got my ace 2 days before they can run their ace back out there. And believe me, there is motivation there if Tanner Bybee comes in and says, okay, I got a chance to put the dagger in Detroit. Yeah, let me do it. So I think you see that from a bullpen usage perspective from Stephen Vogt today.
Absolutely, and we know just how good Tanner was in Game 1 for our guards, and really what he can bring in a Game 4, close it out scenario. I would feel utmost confident tomorrow having him close this thing out. That just speaks even more towards the urgency for the Guardians today. Let's get this win today out there at Comerica. Jensen, I'm excited. Now, after talking to Jason, I get that we're, 30 minutes away from first pitch here, but my excitement is truly starting to build, because when you look at this, and we just did our LDS recap in the last segment, when you look at this, none of these teams that are out there are invincible anymore.
Yeah.
All of these teams have holes. I mean, we talked about the LA Dodgers. You spent $1 billion this offseason. Your starting pitching is still a little bit porous. I mean, all of these remaining teams, we're seeing it with the Yankees and KC right now on our side here in the American League, are flawed. If the Guardians can just get by Detroit, you've got as good of a chance as anybody to crack the World Series this year.
Yeah, and again, just focus on what got you here. We obviously know that there are a couple of guys, and it just feels like if you're winning today, Jose Ramirez has got to have a signature Jose day, and Alex Cobb could go a long way in continuing this great run of the first 2 games with Bibee, with Boyd, basically 9 scoreless innings from both those guys, and allowing Stephen Vogt the opportunity to not have to make a difficult decision early in a game and say, I don't know, he looks kind of shaky, I got to go get him. And it allows, I'll say the same thing I told you about Matthew Boyd on Monday. Every out that Alex Cobb gets into the 5th and beyond is massive bonus points, knowing you still have a game tomorrow, win or lose.
Extra credit time for Alex Cobb out there today at Comerica. Jensen, it was cool also to talk to Jason just about his X factor. We've been on it here on this pregame show as far as Guardians hitting goes and Guardians offensive X factors.
Right.
Let's lay it out there on the line today. X factors for Cleveland's offense in this Game 3.
It feels like Quan needs to have a solid day, and whether that's driving up pitch count in his first AB and finding a way on, being able to turn things over to Manzardo and Hosey, and you hope that I would love to see a leadoff double and then get Manzardo an opportunity to drive him in. Put the pressure on A.J. Hinch. Are you putting up the 4 fingers to put Hosey on and then bring Josh Naylor? We know how personal Josh Naylor takes that. I would love to see that play out in the first inning. I told you about Jimenez. I just have a gut feeling about him today. I think Lane Thomas set up for a good day. And overall, I think both offenses this might be the breakout offensive game. Maybe it's not early, but you might be able to see some haymakers going back and forth offensively.
Absolutely. Total in Game 2 was 6. Total today, 7.5. So Vegas telling you, hey, could very well be some more runs scored today. Not as premium will the offense be today in Detroit. Man, Manzardo balling out would be really cool, because it would give a lot of people the opportunity to take a victory lap on a guy that has become really a fan favorite and a guy that a lot of fans wanted to see more of, making his first start here in the postseason for the Guardians on the road. And then, Jensen, the other piece of what you said is how personal Josh Naylor takes those intentional walks. He takes them, I think, even more personal on the road and in those hostile road environments. So all good things when you look at the outlook for what the Guardians' output could be offensively.
Love it. And as I said, moving day, right? It's a momentum swing day and an opportunity for a team to get a chance to close it out as early as tomorrow. Still the things that come down to a divisional matchup is the familiarity between both teams. All right, they've seen it, and I think Jason makes a great point. Seeing relievers multiple times is critical for offensive success. I think you also have a window into what makes more sense. We know Kerry Carpenter's starting, and that means that there's really not a best bolt, if you will, outside of Ibanez against lefties off the bench, and that's a difference maker for Cleveland's bullpen and Stephen Vogt's mindset of, all right, I'm not as fearful of what is, again, the operative word of this series, looming. Okay, I'm not as worried about who's looming off the Tiger bench with Carpenter in the starting lineup. What you don't want to have is a lot of run-scoring situations where Kerry Carpenter's at the plate. And I think that it then becomes incumbent on taking care of the bottom of the lineup, not allowing like a Jake Rogers to get a cheap single or something and create traffic on the base paths, take advantage of the outs you should get, and force those other big bats to have to beat you the other way.
In parallel to that, Jensen, this Guardians bench, obviously with Manzardo getting the start today in the DH spot, leaves David Fry on the bench. We know he's probably not going to play any position this postseason, but as a DH, it's an option for Vogt. Am I right? And there are a couple other guys on that bench as well.
And he may have an opportunity here, if it presents itself, if he wants a righty in Bo Naylor's spot, right? And if that is something that's there, you have that option too. Rarely do we see it in the American League where you're going to lose the DH in a late game scenario, but that could present itself if the matchup is right to have Fry's bat against a lefty arm. I hope it doesn't get to that. I hope this lead is intact by the fifth inning. I really do.
Yeah, and I definitely think just the way that we've set this up on the pregame show today, the fact that it is Montero, he does have the reputation of walking guys a little bit, and it was nice to hear Jason say a little bit of an underrated piece of that Tigers pitching staff, but definitely not of the same ilk as Skubal and what the Guardians offense faced on Monday. As long as the Guardians, I think, can get out and score a couple runs in these first 5 innings.
Sure.
Jensen, I think our group chat will be very positive as we round out the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hours this evening at our house.
Yeah, let's hope so. And you appreciate where these guys are and who they are at this point in the season. The ability to get a lead early and hand it off to a dominant bullpen, which is a rested bullpen at this point. Take advantage of that. Mention the number 2, Detroit this season with runners in scoring position, only hitting $152, and you hope that that trend continues. If it does, then that's likely meaning that Cleveland has a lead. I think only one other outlier that I'm focused on for this game. If you are in a similar setup to Game 2, where it is scoreless through, and the deeper it goes, is where each starter is going to have so much pressure to collect as many outs as possible. Because once your A guys are gone, then you look a little bit more depth-wise. It should favor the Guardians, but it all is dependent upon how they're used and how long they're used, knowing you still have a game tomorrow.
Good stuff there. I also don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves for tomorrow. But when you're 2-1, and when what we talked about previously with Bibee on his normal rest, you could start as a fan feeling good, but what does that feel like for the guys in the clubhouse when you're 1 win away from advancing in a playoff series? Obviously, you're right there. As Kobe Bryant famously said, job's not finished, and I know we've heard a lot of athletes, regardless of sport, kind of emulate that same thought process. But what's it feel like when you're right there and you've got a team on the ropes and you're just 1 win away from advancing in the postseason?
Well, kind of knowing what Tanner's already done this year, and in those scenarios, even for regular season rubber match situations where he's come in and he's been the guy. He's like, let me go out and win us a series. Go ahead and jump on my back. Let me take you there. And I think he has the emotion to do it. Even as young as he is, I think he's got that emotional mettle to handle that environment. If anything, he's probably going to be more driven to silence the Comerica crowd and go out and have a Skubal-esque performance. Like, hey, all this talk, you want to talk about taking something personally. All this talk about Tarik Skubal and Tarik Skubal and Tarik Skubal, don't think for a moment that Tanner Bibee doesn't file that away in his head and he's like, hey, listen, I'm the ace of the second best team record-wise in this league this year, and I deserve to get my roses too, and that'll certainly be a motivator for him tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I think when you forecast the future of what this AL looks like and the future of Tanner Bibee as the ace of this organization, I mean, you could pencil his name as especially when the odd sheets are released, as a Cy Young candidate for years to come here in Cleveland, and of course we'll get a great look at what that's to be tomorrow. But Jensen, for today, if you're Stephen Vogt, if you're Carl Willis, this staff, is there any reservation in your mind about Cade Smith, Emmanuel Clase in particular, after what happened? Are you trusting that Emmanuel Clase is the guy that's gotten you this far? And of course, to close down a game, send him out there and have really all the confidence in the world that what happened in game 2 was just a fluke, and that's not going to happen again here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's the back of the baseball card, right? And truly what's happened this year. I mean, he gave up, 5 runs the entirety of the season. He gives up 3 in one swing. The likelihood of all of that happening again, and I'm with you, knock on wood, is a very low percentage. But I look at the mentality of great closers, great relievers. It's a short memory. You can't do anything about what just happened. You want every opportunity to go back out immediately. I think Dusty Baker said it a bit on the postgame show on TBS was, I want to get my guy right back out there. And no one wants to be out there more than Emmanuel Clase with a lead in the 9th inning on the road to give him a 2-1 series lead.
Yeah, and that would be incredible. That's what Jensen and I are both hoping happens today at Comerica. We're going to take one final break. It is the Big Play pre-game show. We're live hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. We're brought to you guys today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. The Truck Park has a lot of motion here, Jensen, now filling up, fans getting excited for this Game 3. So come on down to Lakewood. Come hang out with us. One final segment when we return right here on the Big Play pregame show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back here to the Big Play pregame show. My name is Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We're hanging out at the Lakewood Truck Park. We're presented to you today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. First pitch set for 3:08. Filling up a little bit here, Jensen, in Lakewood. Appreciate everybody that's here. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Appreciate the thousands of people watching us live on Twitter at Big Play. You could follow the stream. We'll be live on Thursday at Big Play. Appreciate the people yelling to us across the bar. It's such a cool setup here, man, because we got the outside bar going. You got people hanging out inside with the screens kind of all over the place, both out and inside. We're excited to be back here tomorrow for Game 4. But, Jensen, I'll be a lot more excited if we're back here tomorrow up 2-1, ready to put this series on ice.
Yeah, Saturday was a lot of fun. For people that were out here, it was jam-packed. I really appreciate that the start times worked out with Ohio State following after the Guards put it away pretty early. So, yeah, you take care of business today and set yourself up for what could be a big one, a clincher tomorrow night, first pitch a little after 6. First things first, offense, man. That's got to be a priority. It's got to be a focal point. Really make Cater Montero work and force A.J. Hinch into an early problem of deciding, okay, do I go to my bullpen because I don't want this thing to get so far out of reach, knowing what Cleveland's bullpen is like. Everyone's rested, and so that's why I call it moving day. And really the momentum can swing in many different fashions in a short amount of time. So both starters going to be tasked with keeping the emotions in check, being able to collect a lot of outs economically, and being efficient with their pitch counts first time through the order. That's really, if I'm looking at a checkpoint, for the pitching side, that's the first one is how quickly do both these starters get through the order the first time? And then that second time around, is it a run-scoring situation where if it's still scoreless or the game is within a run, is that when both managers decide we've got to keep it here because we know the other side is so dominant in the back ends of their bullpens? If both starters go deep, then it just amps the pressure. Like, let's assume with scoreless through 5, and Montero's dealing, Cobb's dealing, now you've really got everybody on their edge of their seat because each pitch is going to be so huge, knowing that one run could win the game.
Very similar to what we saw in Game 2. Jensen, my biggest thing, same as yours. Offense, offense, offense. We're willing it into existence here at the Lakewood Truck Park that within the first 3 innings, this drought that everyone's talked about of 11 scoreless innings for the Cleveland Guardians bats, I'm putting it out there into the ether. That all comes to an end in the first 3 innings today at Comerica Park. The Guards are going to get on the board in this one. They're going to get on the board early, and they're going to make A.J. Hinch have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do today? But then also, what am I going to do today to make sure I'm not completely screwing myself for tomorrow? That's such a cool position to be in if you're Cleveland. And really, it's like kind of a luxury that at the deadline, Detroit didn't know that they were going to be where they're at here today. And as A.J. Hinch himself has said throughout this series, he's got Scooble and kind of just a litany of pitching behind him. So that's my key, Jensen, is they've got to score and they've got to make Hinch scratch his head of how do I keep myself alive, not only in this game, but in the rest of the series that follows.
And I think early, too, is that crowd is going to be just rambunctious. Yeah. I mean, if you just joined us, 3,657 days in between postseason games in Detroit, and also where that gritty mentality has gotten that clubhouse and how they feel that, I'm sure inside there, they feel they're kind of that team of destiny with how they had to play down the stretch with going into Houston and A.J. Hinch's old team and putting them on the deck at 2-Q to get the series equalizer the way they did. The emotional win of Game 2 is something that they want to carry into today and really parlay that into what they hope is an early lead. And exactly on the opposite side is force Stephen Vogt into a position of, do I have to go use Joey Cantillo? Do I have to go use Gavin Williams to bridge to my big guys in the back? They don't want to fall behind early or even by multiple runs, knowing they're staring down the barrel of a rested bullpen. So I think the urgency, we've talked about it's more of a must-win for Cleveland to allow Tanner Bybee to have that start tomorrow and realize he's 9 innings away from getting this club into the ALCS. By the same token, don't get ahead of yourself. When you have the opportunities to score, take advantage, because Detroit has struggled mightily in that department. Cleveland's bullpen is going to be tasked with, I think, probably a couple of those scenarios throughout this afternoon. But I really love the offensive setup today, particularly for Cleveland against Montero, and then whoever that first guy out of the Detroit bullpen is.
Yeah, and for Cleveland as well, capitalize on your opportunities. How many times did it feel like, man, this could be where they blow this inning open and really get after Skubal and hang a number up on the board here, and it just stayed gridlock at 0-0. When you've got guys in scoring position, you got to bring them home. That's a big key for Cleveland today. All right, Jensen, I think it is prediction time, my friend. I'll lead us off.
Okay.
I'm hitting the over here. I'm going Cleveland Guardians victory. 6-3.
Wow.
Guards win. We're hitting the over, and we're putting up 6 runs while doing so. Feeling good about coming back here to the Lakewood Truck Park tomorrow with the 6-3 Gardos victory.
I'd be completely honest, we did not ask each other beforehand. I was going 5-3.
All right.
I was going 5-3. I think that we get a crooked number here maybe once or twice, and then that's the opportunity there for maybe one side to take a deep breath and be like, all right, we're in good shape. But, man, a signature Jose Ramirez performance. Got to happen today. Hope it's a big 3-run home run and the Guards ride on to a Game 3 win.
I love it. He's going Jose Ramirez's Game 3 MVP. I'll sprinkle in a Game 3 MVP for you. Give me Kyle Manzardo.
Love it.
Kyle Manzardo having a big day in his postseason starting debut for the Cleveland Guardians. He got a little bit of the playoff taste in in the first 2 games, but starting Game 3, I think, and getting those consistent ABs is going to be a big thing for Manzardo. He's going to have a big one today. Alrighty, that is all for us. He is Jensen Lewis. I'm Nick Padone. It's been an absolute blast hanging out with you guys at the Lakewood Truck Park all throughout the American League Division Series. You could catch us back here tomorrow on Thursday, 4 p.m. start for the Big Play pregame. We're doing it happy hour style, taking you guys all the way up to that 6 o'clock first pitch. We appreciate you, everybody that tuned in, whether you're here hanging out with us in Lakewood, whether if you're on the stream online, you could shoot us a follow at Big Play to tune in tomorrow to the show. Let's get a win today, baby. Let's go, Guards.